I'm Erica Lukes, host of UFO Classified. For me, life isn't simply black and white. Life is full of many unknowns. It is my goal to travel the world and to work with the world's leading experts in the hopes of making groundbreaking discoveries. Join me on UFO Classified Friday nights at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on KCOR.
UFO Classified. UFO Classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome to UFO Classified and happy Fantopia Friday. It is always a pleasure to be here with you to get into chat and to see all of the people that are beginning to learn about our show. I want to specifically tonight thank Robert Fleischer, who has done a 6-hour interview so far with Chris Marks because of what has been taking place with my radio show, the excellent work of Keith Basterfield. And we are getting the information out there. This is international. We've got another show in Austria that Chris will be doing coming up, and it has been amazing to me to see the response over there. They're actually very educated, they're grounded, they have the ability to look at things from a normal point of view, which we don't do here in America, and instead of assuming that everything is UFO and it's a big giant cover-up about UFOs, we actually look at the evidence, which we have quite a bit of it, including the statement for objectives for the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program. And in it, there is absolutely no wording to support the fact that they were looking at UFO technology. None. And for people that actually work in the government, one of whom I've spoken with about this particular topic, it is very unlikely that they would create a fake report and get that out there, that it is what it says it is. And they are testing weapons on human beings, as we have seen with Skinwalker Ranch. We also know full well that there is a big community out there, bought and paid for by the boys, and they have been inserted into this narrative since 2017, since the New York Times article broke. They all have affiliations with Bigelow and crew, and they are all pumping out information and trying to intimidate other people, which is really interesting. So right now I've been working on the list of who is attending the premiere for Hunt for the Skinwalker, because I'm sure that will very eloquently sum up who is on whose side. And we definitely know that, I will leave it at that. I also want to read a little something here that is going to give you more food for thought. And in Forbidden Science 4 by Jacques Vallée, April 20th, 1997, he states, Bob Bigelow called me after my latest memo, alerting him to the fact that the phenomena at the Utah ranch might feed on violent emotions and that we must not leave the staff in harm's way. Another thing I want to say, which they certainly did, but I guess it was just the military vets that they wanted to put in harm's way. Bigelow, and I have this from several reliable high-up sources, Bigelow specifically forbade his upper management from stepping foot on the property because people that he had on the property were coming down with cancer. He did not want the scientists to go on the property. He forbade them to go on the property. Why is that? Is it because the mothership might come in and out of the environment every once in a while, or is it because there's something on the property, or they knew that there was testing going on that could affect the health of these superiors? But hey, let's forget about the little people. Let's forget about the people that are surrounding the ranch who have died of cancer, who have seen interesting things that they like to pawn off on UFOs. When this story reaches its max potential, this will be the biggest scandal in the history of this subject. And unfortunately, we need to become to that point where we're smart enough that we understand that, yes, the government will use the UFO narrative to hide covert operations. And yes, there are people involved in this who have a great deal of money and are out there to spread disinformation, to put up all these red herrings. And, it is a debacle, and it has never been this bad. So I encourage you to make sure, if you're going to be reading somebody's blog, you look into their background. When did they appear on the scene? Do they state both sides like a good blogger or journalist should? Or is their material, Popular Science or Popular Mechanics as a great example, is that just put out there to promote a specific narrative? When you are making sensational claims, you better back it up, and you better have sources that are not anonymous. And that is all I'm going to say about that. I will be addressing the Popular Mechanics article with a lot of detail next week. But now I want to get to my guest this evening, whom I have a great deal of respect. I think Tom Conwell has done brilliant work and is often under-recognized for the work that he's contributed to this subject. He is U.S. Navy with the Navy and Honeywell Inc. for 42 years. He was Honeywell Temperature Control and Fire Alarm Software Specialist, biomedical engineer, a meteorologist, and has a wide-ranging expertise with a keen awareness of physics and broad knowledge of electronics. Tom remains a vital scientific resource on extreme and paranormal encounter response team and embraces the wealth of information and theories that embody the title of ufologist. He has written several books, and there are extensive collections of blogs based on aspects of ufology, and he's also been researching the United States of America and has put together brilliant maps where you see these clusters of sightings that are taking places in specific areas. I am very happy to have Tom here, and I think all three of your books, which I'm blessed to have, they are here, volume 1, 2, and 3. This is incredible, Tom. I love your work.
Okay, thank you very much. I actually remembered to unmute. Okay, there we go. Thanks. It's actually 4 books plus this latest publication. So for all intents and purposes, it's 5 now.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
We need to keep in touch more. And I'm sorry that I've been off in my own little Skinwalker ranch world, but I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you very much. I've been wanting to contact you, but I held off until I got this latest publication to the point that I could call it done.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So so tell us about your first book, the first volume.
Okay. Volume 1, what I wanted to do was take the database for the National UFO Reporting Center and try to create something comprehensive. What was this database telling me? So I went through the book without even actually, I never even considered doing a book. I just wanted to find some interesting things to talk about. And I kept finding so many interesting things to talk about that it just grew and grew and grew, created a book for me. But again, I had no idea that I was going to do it. After I finished my first book, then I started on the second book. The first book covered Eastern U.S. The second book was like Central U.S. So I started that one and realized that something really big was missing. I could talk about where sightings were, and I could talk about where collections of sightings were, but what I couldn't do is show anybody what it looked like on a map. So from the center, what I was working on then, the center of the U.S., I went back and completed the map for the Eastern U.S., and then I filled in the map for the Central U.S., and I realized, oh my God, I have something really big going on here. It's showing me all kinds of stuff that I never, ever expected. It set me off into Volume 3, and with Volume 3, what I wanted to do was to not only talk about the maps, I wanted to talk about certain visual reports in each state that really stood out. I wanted to see if there were probable causes for repetitive reports. I was looking for something like if there's any cultural influences, such as Native American, indigenous populations, something. Were they creating collections of sightings? Then I looked into area conditions, such as earthquake frequencies and strength, weather conditions, pollution, and under pollution, I also included drilling and mining, fracking, and Superfund sites. If you're not familiar with what a Superfund site is, back in I think it was back in the 80s, what they did was they set aside areas that had been collecting points for heavy pollution, and they set those aside so that people couldn't live on them, and decided, now that we have these areas segregated, let's put more crap into them, and that's what they did. But in the whole time, they're saying, well, even though we have a lot of stuff here, there's really not much of a problem because it's all contained here. But nobody was thinking about water runoff or affecting the water tables or anything. They found that was a pretty bad idea, and started trying to clean them up. And cleaning them up created their own problems. Well, anyhow, from that I went looking at the water availability, fresh water in lakes, streams, rivers, and there's not a whole lot of clean fresh water in any of the rivers in the country. CO2 discharge from coal-fired power plants, shale oil and gas fields, if I happen to notice any, precious mineral deposits and mining. And under precious minerals, I was looking at rare earth and heavy metals and things that people would be using for the latest technology and improved battery function. And geological conditions with the land, oil and chemical spills, power plants, nuclear, oil-fired, gas-fired, and coal-fired. And once I got into this in Volume 3, I went back and re-edited Volume 2 to include as many things as I could find on all those subjects that I just talked about. Then I went back and edited Volume 1. I don't think you have the latest edited versions of that, Erica. I'm going to have to send you those two. And it was a nightmare. It took me, along with the map and the books, it probably took me 2 years to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awful, and the reason it was awful, I loved the writing. Okay, that wasn't the deal. What was hard was when you have sighting reports, it says where the sighting reports are from, and what city is that? Well, it's sort of near a city, but it's outside the city, and it's not on any map that you could put on the U.S. You may find most of these towns that are mentioned in UFO sighting reports in a map of the state. Okay, and if it were just a map of, let's say, North Dakota. Okay, all the little towns you could see in there, and most of the sightings would be listed on that. But that's not what I have. I have a map of the United States, and while the map of North Dakota might be 30 by 50 inches, the map of the United States is 30 by 50 inches. So as you can tell, there's a whole lot missing. So I have to look up every single city. And once I look up every single city, then I find the appropriate pin and put that in the map. It was awful.
Oh, I bet. I bet
That's
it
all
was.
I.
And I have to ask you too, like, um, did you look at where military installations were located with
Yes,
the cluster?
I didn't mention that. Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe I jumped over it. But yes, if a military installation were there, I would make note of it, whether it were Army, Navy, or Air Force. But most of the UFO sightings are around Air Force bases because there's planes.
Right.
The Navy's the Navy has a tendency to find the sightings when they're out at sea, not so much in a large town.
Interesting. And were there any instances where you had a Native American reservation that abutted a military installation?
Um, hmm, it makes me think. What sticks out of my mind is something from an Air Force base in and around Salt Lake City where you live. There was something there that caught my eye about Native Americans and about the Air Force. Can't recall what that was, but that was that was interesting because the sightings around there um, were people who lived right around the Air Force Base who would see things coming in from the sky and not like a plane would do, like coming in at a low angle and land. These would come straight in from above and just disappear into the Air Force Base. So there were quite a few reports about that. Those were interesting.
And those would be, something I need to refresh myself on again because, a lot of people don't realize how much of, of Utah, the state is dedicated to the military. And, we've got hundreds of thousands of acres for the Utah Test and Training Range. We have Dugway Proving Ground, which is one of the largest chemical and biological places on the planet. We've got the NSA, most highly restricted airspace, and there's a lot. And Hill Air Force Base. There's so much going on here, and it makes it one of the prime areas, in my opinion, where they would want to keep reports quiet. Which is what I believe happened, why there weren't a lot of cases going in from MUFON in Utah, because they wanted to keep things quiet. And it is very curious to see all of this and then put it in relation with that.
I talked with, I have a friend who runs a business that involves the paranormal out in Utah, and they told me about a close friend of theirs who drove a truck out to Dugway multiple times, and some of the stories from there were interesting, to say the least. What people were seeing out there was surprising at times.
I have over the years collected many reports from people, with regard to Dugway and the surrounding areas, and sometimes I've just kind of sat back and wondered, were they testing some hallucinogen? There've been some crazy reports, and you just don't know, with stuff like that. It's like, what is this? Is this our technology? Dugway is a perfect place. Everyone talks about Area 51, but, we've got Dugway, and I think that's a bit more happening with regard to some of this technology. And it's interesting to note, too, that we have one of the highest concentrations of defense contracting and aerospace in the country right here in the Salt Lake Valley.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I was certainly aware of Massachusetts and California, and to a certain extent Arizona, but I wasn't aware that you had that kind of a concentration there near Salt Lake.
Yes, we do. It's pretty amazing when you start looking at some of the companies that are here, it just makes perfect sense. Now that I'm looking into the Skinwalker Ranch thing and learning that there is from a couple different eyewitness reports that there is actually an installation not too far from Skinwalker Ranch where they could be staging things or doing things to then do what they're doing on the ranch. But it's been really fascinating, this whole thing.
I told you when we were off air that I haven't really gotten into the Skinwalker Ranch yet. Perhaps I will start reading up on it because I've always found that fascinating. Something was going on there that I wasn't aware of, and I think I have to find out about it.
It really has been an interesting thing. And of course, we all have heard about it for decades, and there's been a certain narrative that's been promoted, and it was a brilliant strategy because you can promote everything's paranormal and all of this stuff. And then that way, when somebody sees something that is abnormal, like a blue orb, or they have different experiences, they could write it off as a UFO sighting, even though people were becoming ill. And so it's a fascinating unfolding story that just has changed in the past 8 months so much. It's been incredible. And I'd love to fill you in off the air sometime. We'll have to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
Absolutely. We'll make it happen. And so tell people where they can find your books.
Okay. Well, I only talked about 3 of them. The fourth one, let me just mention the book. It's called Going Interstellar. And it's a collection of all the blogs that I had written when I first became a ufologist. I tried to take every single tiny aspect of how a UFO would fly or land or hover or take off or anything about UFOs. And I would theorize how they may be able to do that, utilizing maybe slight advances on our technologies today. It was a challenge because I had to do a ton of research to do these blogs, and so anyhow,
That's incredible.
The book was called Going Interstellar: Problems First. And my books are all available so far. At least these 4 are available on Amazon. And I write under Thomas W. Conwell. On Facebook, I'm listed as Tom Conwell.
Perfect.
So it's a little different.
Perfect. I love the work that you have been kind enough to send me. You just do such an incredible job, and I appreciate your friendship and knowledge. We're going to get ready to take a break right now. I am Erica Lukes. You can go to UFOclassified.com to look at my rebuttal with regard to the Popular Mechanics article written by Tim McMillan. I would suggest you do that. Lots of questions going on. We will take a break and be back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Here's what happened on the last episode of 3 Guys, No Time.
Hey, this is Dave Dalton. Be sure and join Dave Garrity and I the 25th over at the Royal Resort Hotel, 99 Convention Center Drive-In. We will be at Dr. A's Magic Medicine Show. We'll let him tell you all about it.
Hi, folks. My name is Michael Aslan, and I do the Dr. A Mystical, Magical, Medicinal Elixir for Anything That Ails You Medicine Show, also known as Dr. A's Magic Medicine Show, at the Royal Resort every week, 99 Convention Center Drive. Folks, come on out and have a good time with me as I tell you all about my special elixir that's guaranteed to help you to see, get rid of your dog's fleas, take away your fat, and get rid of your rats. It is a miracle in the bottle, and that bottle is totally recyclable, making us a completely green company. So come on out Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, Royal Resort Hotel, Majestic Theater, and have a little bit of fun with me with a lot of comedy, magic, and audience participation.
Don't forget to join Three Guys No Ties at the Royal Resort Hotel, 99 Convention Center Drive, this Tuesday night, the 25th, 8 p.m. show. Mention Three Guys No Ties or the KCOR Digital Radio Network, and you get in for free.
Three Guys No Ties, Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Hello, KCOR listeners. Lorian Fenton here from the Fenton Files to tell you about UFOCon 2020 in San Francisco, February 20th through 23rd. A conference like no other, UFOCon is where experiencers are going to reveal new information and science and consciousness will collide. So get your tickets at UFOCon2020.com. That's UFOCon2020.com. Don't miss what will be the most talked about conference of the decade.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
In the shadows, a voice cries out. Evidence that you're not alone.
You said my name. What is your name?
Proof that the living and the dead coexist. Or do they? Every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, join writer, producer, and paranormal investigator Greg Bakken on Ghost Box Radio as he explores, interviews, and investigates evidence alongside some of the best in the paranormal community and beyond.
6 people killed.
Ghost Box Radio, Wednesday nights exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, because the dead don't sleep. Ghost Box Radio.
Are you ready to go?
It's showtime! Here we go, world.
You're listening to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Broadcasting from the heart of Las Vegas, Nevada.
Their base is so large it has to draw most of its power from the nearby nuclear fusion plant.
The future of radio is here and now.
Thursday nights are about to get weird on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Join hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz as they go exploring the bizarre. Jet across the cosmos with two of the most electrifying paranormal researchers in the known universe. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Exploring the bizarre takes you deep within the world of the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology. It's time to take back the night with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. Exploring the bizarre. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to UFO Classified. I'm always happy to be here on KCOR. I have a great deal of respect for Tina Marie. I love getting into chat and seeing all of my favorite people. Phil Leach, who's been on my show multiple times and is quite the firecracker. I love having Phil on. He makes me laugh, and he has also raised some very important issues about MUFON, and I think that I'm sure all of you are familiar. If you haven't listened to his shows with me, I would definitely recommend it. We've also been hitting on data and how that data is disappearing and moving into hands, MUFON in particular, where we will never actually see that data, and that is sad. And so we need to be thinking about all of these things. And thanks, Phil, for bringing that to our attention. I also want to thank Northern UFOs, who does a great deal for me. He is a good friend. And I just think the world of you, Northern. So anyway, we are back with my friend and someone I hold in high regard because he's done amazing work in his career. He was with the U.S. Navy in Honeywell, and has written several books on UFOs and specific locations, and also song Interstellar, and that are going interstellar. And my writing is so bad today. I'm telling you, I think I need to lock myself in the closet. I've decided for a couple days. Oh, but Tom, thank you for coming on the show. I would love to go hang out with you, and I would love to just pick your brain. And I think the type of work that you're doing, where you're really actually analyzing where these specific sightings are taking place, and then you're looking at other reasons, you're looking at the rare earth and the minerals and reservations and military installations. And I think that's really, really important.
There's been, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to leave no stone unturned. That was my original intent. And then I got to my latest publication and everything went out the window. Well, not everything. It's been absolutely crazy. About a year ago, I guess, I was wanting to write about UFO technologies, and I thought when I start to create like ideas, I find myself getting awakened, there's no other way to say this, at like 3 a.m. with 100 ideas just racing through my head. And I eventually boil it down to earthquakes and UFOs. And one of the things that really piqued my interest, there was a show on, I think it was during last summer. I've been struggling to remember the name of it, but one of their episodes, there was an earthquake in Northern Virginia, and they sent a whole lot of people to investigate some sightings that they saw around there, and they made a statement about halfway through that show that said something on the line of the UFOs have got to be attracted to the tremendous energy releases that are going on during earthquakes. And that stuck with me. And I said, that could be, let me go about and prove it. So that's what set me on this totally different path. And I sent you a PDF about that. It was about 90 pages, 8.5 by 11, and I tried proving that earthquakes were indeed attracting UFOs.
And I'm just sitting here looking at this, and it's so beautifully done. Tell us about the water-based magnetic anomalies.
Okay. That map, I found that on a GIS site, and what it actually looked like was it looked like somebody took a paint can and threw red paint at a U.S. map. And, of course, there were areas that were bright red and other areas that were medium red and others that were just pinky. And this was across the entire United States. And they apparently were able to fly over every single square inch of the United States with electronics that would be able to track the magnetic emanations from the Earth. And where the maps happen to be brilliantly red, that's where the magnetism was the heaviest. I found some pretty interesting things from this. Where they were the brightest, in one case, was right off of the coast of Los Angeles and just on the outboard section of the islands there, Santa Catalina, and there's a couple of other little islands in there. Right in that area. This is an area that has been purported to be a UFO base. Now, of course, nobody knows if it is or isn't, but it is interesting that this idea that was purported to be a UFO base was in the area of the highest magnetic anomalies around the United States. Some of the other areas are, one was off the East Coast, almost along the whole East Coast, where the Gulf current is, and that's in the area right off of the continental shelf. Now, if you've ever been out to sea, luckily I was, and was able to stand watches up in the areas that had the electronics. And I was able to see what actually happens at the continental shelf. And it starts getting a little deeper as you go away from the land, and it hits a point that the continental shelf, it just drops like a rock. It's as if there's no bottom to it. It's really incredible. Now, at the same time, these magnetic anomalies that I was seeing here, and I've only mentioned two so far. These magnetic anomalies were in two areas where people have seen a whole lot of ships, flying things that were either coming out of the water or going into the water. Now, were they going out of the water or coming into the water? Were they doing that because they were they had problems with their craft? Did they have to go in the water in order to shed heat? Or were they going in the water there because there's a base there? I'm not sure. But wherever there's a large body of water, this exact same thing is happening. And then we have areas that were throughout the United States, over land that corresponded to mountains. Some areas that corresponded to the Juan de Fuca plate is, and that is up in the Pacific Northwest. This is a subduction plate that dives under the Pacific plate there, and created the Cascade Mountain Range. And there's some pretty high areas there also of magnetic interference. Oh, let's see. Well, some of the others are. There was one in the mountains to the west of Phoenix, which is pretty interesting because I think there's a whole lot of activity out there. There is one that is right along, runs almost from where the Appalachian Mountains start down in Alabama all the way up through Vermont. And especially right over top of where Tennessee corresponds with North Carolina, the border there. And in this area, there have been a whole lot of things seen in the sky. People see these crafts disappearing in the mountains, and some people have even seen crafts going into the side of the mountains and disappearing. This is also the same area where there has been a talk of little people just happened to notice that and thought it was interesting because there's something going on in this particular area that should be investigated. And I don't think we're going to be able, or anyone is going to be able to investigate that, because there's a whole lot of brand new roads that are built up in these mountains that go nowhere. Why would they build a new road up there?
Interesting.
All this weird stuff. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of these especially crazy sites throughout the United States.
And again, how close is that site to a military installation?
That is a good question. There are military, small military bases, not massive bases, small ones up in the mountains of North Carolina.
Okay. Huh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, there are some interesting reports, like you say, that have come out of North Carolina, and in particular, Chris Bledsoe and some of his interesting sightings and things. That is a really interesting area, and now that I've have kind of the perspective that I have after all of my research here in Utah, it certainly has changed. It's shifted things a lot, for sure, but what are some of the most common types of sightings that people are having?
Okay, well, that's been changing. Back in about 2011, one of the more common sightings was a fireball. This is, for all intents and purposes, a ball of fire seen in the sky going very slowly, dawdling across the sky, and not the typical fireball that people refer to as a meteor that goes zipping across the sky, leaving a trail of debris. These things leave no debris. They look like fire. They dawdle across the sky, and they are seen, for the most part, in and around water, such as around Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, around Lake Superior, and Lake Ontario, especially up in the Buffalo-Rochester area. And then all along the east coast of the United States, there, of course, are some of these seen inland, but not near as many as along the water. And the exact same thing is happening on the west coast. There are a high amount of sightings like this that we're seeing. Again, this really ramped up around 2011, and it sort of dropped off towards about 2015. Since then, it has been just general spheres in the sky, and triangles. One of the things that I found interesting is in order to find out what was going on with these sightings, I didn't just take what was told on the National UFO Reporting Center. I went deeper than that. I read every long report, all 75,000 of them, and read each report and found out what people were seeing. And in many cases, I actually had to go back and change what the sighting was scheduled to be. In other words, let's say someone said they saw a triangle. Well, you go back into the report and you read, and it happened to be 3 spheres flying in a triangular formation that took off in all directions. Well, they didn't see a triangle then. They saw spheres. So I went back in and changed them. And this is why it took me so long. Every night I'd be sitting for 8-10 hours and changing sightings, deleting sightings that were of poor quality. In other words, somebody would describe seeing a star in the sky. Well, Those are the ones I would delete. And even some of the others that look like just a light in the sky that could easily have been a satellite or something like that. I probably deleted maybe 20% of the sightings from the National UFO Reporting Center from my database. And that's what I used for the overall data, because it was a little bit closer to the real sightings. They were of a lot better quality. But around the water, the sightings that are seen mostly are the fireballs that sort of slanted off around 2015 or so, and since then it's been spheres and triangles. A lot of triangles lately, and I think that's probably because many of them are ours.
And isn't that interesting? And it's funny because, you know, when I first came into this, I had no idea how many of them really are ours. It's just, you know, it's been a very interesting learning process, I'm sure, for both of us.
Oh yeah, you don't know what they are because many of them are seen up in the sky pretty high, and they're seen at night, so you can't tell what they are. But you can tell it's a triangle, and that's all you can tell.
You know, and I want to ask you, with all the TTSA, all of this stuff that has come out with that group, and then some of the videos that have come out or resurfaced that, you know, were out on the internet a while ago. Do you think that this is actually our own technology, and they're using the UFO thing as a cover story?
Wow, possibly. I don't have any first-hand knowledge of that. So I'm not willing to say, yes, that's what's going on. I don't know what's going on. But I would not be surprised that that there's a large amount of sightings these days that are our own technologies, but they aren't the up-close sightings that that we found back in the 70s and 80s all the time, with things that were landing and things that were hovering right above power lines that the actual sighter could say was maybe 50 yards from them or 75 yards. Those, of course, were probably UFOs, meaning extraterrestrials or extra-dimensionals, who knows. And the ones more now, anything's possible. I think it may be diluted heavily right now to be leaning toward our own craft.
Yeah, it is interesting with some of the technologies that we've come out with. I mean, the blue plasma balls that have the ability to talk to people and influence thought and behavior, and, you know, some of these other technologies. It's very fascinating, and it makes it difficult to kind of, you know, weed through, okay, what is actually something that is unexplainable, and perhaps a different intelligence, and then what do we have that is just the powers that be who have manipulated technology.
Yeah. There's so much hidden from us now that I don't think we'll ever know. I don't think anybody wants to say what we know, what we don't know, because if they admit that, then why haven't they used things to make our lives better? Things will get pretty nasty if they admit, oh yeah, we've had this for 50 years. Well, what about us? You know, what about the people who can't afford energy, who have trouble paying their electric bill? What about them? You know, it won't be well. It won't go well for the government to admit that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It won't at multiple fronts, and I think unfortunately we don't see things like this in other countries. We really don't. I mean, it is not manipulated to that point, which is too bad because there's so many of us out here that just want to explore and to learn and to really figure out what is going on. And then you've got this added element of disinformation and all sorts of things taking place. But it's I mean, the whole thing is just stupefying, honestly.
It really is. I really wish that we knew more. We aren't going to know more. And I pretty much said why we aren't going to know more in my latest publication, which we'll talk about after the break. But it's going to be a tough time on everybody in the world, because once this stuff gets released, provided it gets all released at once, governments will fall. It won't be a good scenario.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you about that, even though that's very intense. A lot of dark potentials there. But it is quite curious. And I also want to talk to you when we get back from break about some of the up close sightings, some of the things that have taken place in close proximity and all of that, because I know that you have a lot of you've looked at, I mean, thousands of cases. It's just amazing.
Yeah, some of them are almost beyond belief, especially one in Hawaii that still makes my mind reel. It's been very interesting.
Good. I can't wait to talk about that. And thank you again for being here. I'm Erica Lukes. We're getting ready to take our longer of the two breaks. You can go to UFOclassified.com to read my rebuttal to the Popular Mechanics article from Tim McMillan. I think that you'll find that very interesting for sure. You can also, if you want to support the show, I appreciate it so much. This is a listener-supported show, and all of your contributions mean a great deal to me, and it keeps me on the air, so I appreciate everything. I'm here with Tom Conwell. You can get all of his publications at Amazon, and I will be listing those in chat coming up and on my website. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. You all know that I love hanging out with my people on Friday nights. This is so much fun to get into chat and to see everybody here and to know that there is a big, big network of people from all over the world that are following what I have to say. The story that I have uncovered with regard to what really took place at Skinwalker Ranch has really blown the doors open. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing a counterattack by the powers that be who have a vested interest in making sure the narrative stays the same, even though, interestingly enough, if we were actually would have caught on to this sooner, they did mention the fact that there were weapons being tested in and around Skinwalker Ranch. But my, how interesting. We don't really focus on what the truth is, because we were given little smatters of that, weren't we? This is, like I said, an unfolding story. This is something that should be a lesson to all of us, that we can be manipulated in this subject. We have been. Be diligent and make sure you check your sources, and don't assume that just because somebody is writing for a magazine that gives them any credibility. Where did they come from? Who are their motivations? Are they using anonymous sources, or are they actually putting sources out, which is how it should be? I don't know. So many questions. I'm going to really hit that home next week. You can believe that one. But tonight I'm here with my friend and colleague, Tom Conwell, who is a ufologist, a forensic pattern researcher. I was with the Navy and Honeywell, and for 42 years, I was a biomedical engineer, a meteorologist, all sorts of things. And he has written several books, which you can find on Amazon. And I will be posting, like I said, links to those books and all of that. But we've had an amazing conversation so far. When you're talking, Tom, you have identified specific places, window areas, hotspots, where there seem to be concentrations of sightings. And you've also done your due diligence and looked at, some of the resources that were in this area, bodies of water, magnetic anomalies, all of these things. And so that's very, very cool. And that's what needs to be done when we're looking at things.
When I put my map together, I looked at each particular state. Now, once I had a whole state done, what I had was a mess of pins, and I couldn't tell what I had. But as I was putting the pins in, each individual one, then I was able to see if there were concentrations of sightings in areas that I didn't expect, such as northwestern Arkansas and northeastern Oklahoma. There's a heck of a lot of pins in there for the cities that are there in Tulsa and the cities up in northwestern Arkansas. There's a lot of pins. I found that very, very unusual. Also, at the same time, I saw areas that in large cities that were almost beyond belief, such as New York City and Long Island, Chicago, Miami, of course, Los Angeles, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Phoenix, and Seattle-Tacoma area. All these areas had an awful lot of pins in them, more than you'd figure is even reasonable. Then some of the other areas that I found to be interesting are Denver and Boulder area, and the area north of that. There's a fort up there. I can't recall the name of it. And then down south of Denver and Boulder, there is Pueblo and Colorado Springs. And these are 4 separate areas, not just one big area, 4 separate areas where there's a lot of sightings that almost don't follow with the population. So there's a whole lot of things. And then, of course, I mentioned this before, we have eastern Tennessee, and western North Carolina. There's so many pins there that the pins have just almost expanded into central North Carolina. So there's a whole lot of stuff to be seen. And every time you get around one of the Great Lakes, we have some tremendous concentrations, such as Detroit and Toledo and Cleveland and Buffalo and Rochester. And, of course, I just mentioned the Chicago area, and that extends all the way up to Green Bay. So there's some tremendous collections of UFO sightings here, and every one of them has what I almost think is a different reason. So that made me wonder what was actually going on. Do I have a different reason for UFO sightings in these areas? Or is there one reason that I've never considered before? Well,
yeah, I know. It's fascinating.
That's what got me looking in this latest publication that I did. Something's happening here that initially there was a whole lot of sightings across the United States with these craft just flying in over cities and doing whatever they're doing. But I suspect, and it wouldn't make sense to me if I were doing this, but if another civilization came in and wanted to see what we have, well, what would they do? Would they go horizontally back and forth across the country? Would they go vertically? Would they mix it up so that one's so obvious? The other thing that threw me for a loop is if a civilization can go hundreds of light years across the universe and find their way here, well, they would have some seriously advanced electronics on board of their craft. So if they flew over a particular area, they would have so much computing power that not only would they know where all of our bases are, they'd know where all of our nuclear plants are, they'd know where all of our nuclear weapons are, they would know whether or not there are reservations of Indians, Native Americans. They would know everything by a couple of flyovers because they have such tremendous computing power. They wouldn't have to keep going over the same areas. So what the heck are they doing? I think it's something different. I think at this point, even though I looked at all these reasons in my first several books, I found that there was almost like I mentioned before, there's almost like a different reason for every city. And that didn't make sense to me. What did make sense is what's changing on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, for them to find the need to fly over these areas. Something must be changing. I can't help but wonder if what's changing may be us. Our civilization awakening, becoming more psychic, things like this. I would not be surprised anymore because this has happened to me. I have changed over the past 5 years. Since I started writing about UFOs, I've seen UFOs 4 different times, ghosts multiple times. I had a waking dream about being visited by an extraterrestrial group of people. All these things have happened to me since I started writing, since I started thinking that other things are possible. How many other people say that, say, for instance, on Facebook? Virtually everybody you come across. So there's got to be something here that is one basic reason why they're flying over. And I think that it's something that's changing within our population, our peoples, that is enough to allow this civilization to know that we are awakening as a civilization. And they're watching us very carefully now, and almost ready to announce themselves. This is my opinion. Of course, I've drawn all these conclusions based on sightings and based on pictures that I've seen, and mapping sighting points. Something has to be common to everything, and that's the only thing I can come across that would make them need to fly over our areas on a consistent basis. Otherwise, 2 or 3 flyovers, and they have, again, like I said, they have so much computing power, they don't have to keep flying over. Well, this week we're going to look at only lakes. No, they can do everything in one flyover. They probably even know where all of our minerals are. They know which rivers are polluted and to how much. They know where our mountains and where our minerals are, especially crystals. They know all this stuff from like a couple of flyovers. So none of it makes sense, or it didn't make sense until this latest publication that I did.
And that is amazing. So is that available now?
Not exactly. I'm about 90% done with it.
That'd be good. I can't wait. That is amazing. And we'll have you back on when you get, ready to, when you release it, and we can talk about that and promote it and things. That's really, it's amazing. And so what are your thoughts on the origin of all of this?
You mean why the UFOs came here to begin with?
Right. And where did they come from? Is it extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial? What is it?
Okay, it's a little of everything. I believe that they are utilizing advanced technology that includes zipping in and out of dimensions. At least some of the races can do that, and cover incredible distances in a very short time. Others have to do it the hard way through wormholes and stuff. But I believe that some of the races are like way, way, way beyond us. And what they have done being here is they have shaken up everything. Because they utilize different dimensions, it's my opinion that they have probably shaken up any of the interactions that we as humans have with other dimensions, such as ghosts, interdimensional beings. I think once they showed up, it opened up the door for absolutely everything. All this crazy stuff that's happening that people are talking about, especially in the paranormal world. All this stuff was as a result of several different civilizations showing up on our doorstep.
And I mean, for me, because I absolutely feel, I've had incredible experiences through my life. There's something intelligent interacting with us, and I can't at this point, say it's old Grandma Mabel or it's, the little gray alien from Xenu or, whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't know I can't even begin to say, but there is something that is interacting with us. I think that it's empowering. I think that we look into things like getting our intuition and our own personal power, and I think it is interesting to me to see how the powers that be want to step in and try to confuse the subject and muddy it. Now, as you can see with To the Stars Academy, it's like the threat. You should be scared. We should all be. And that's taking our power away.
Yeah.
And whether, it's just another control mechanism. And I think it's really sad because each of us we have so many gifts, and, people who have been lucky enough to have experiences with things, I always try to tell people, hold those experiences near and dear and very close to you. Please don't go on the internet and talk about them. Don't file a report with MUFON. You know what I mean? Because it's that can be, the second you do that, it is open for corruption. Just like with me and coming into this subject and wanting to find the truth and joining MUFON, and it's like you get fed so much information that taints your experiences and your process in all of this, that it really does disempower you.
Very interesting. I never thought that if I were to say what I've seen, and in each of my books, by the way, the very first couple of paragraphs are a sighting that I've seen. I haven't yet talked about in my books the visitation that I had with a group of extraterrestrials, but I've always thought that we have to get that information out. We got to say it to everybody who will listen. And if you remember, most of my things are probably about 6 or 7 postings a week. I talk about the UFO phenomenon. So I want people to start talking about it. Now, I've never thought that I could be deluded, not D-E-L-U-D, D-I-L-U-T-E-D. I never thought that my sightings or any of the things I've said could be diluted down, that it could potentially be held against anyone.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I said, there's just so many things that you learn through this whole process. It's just been absolutely fascinating. And we haven't even talked about, we're getting ready, of course, again, to go to break, but we haven't even talked about Hawaii. I think we still have a couple minutes. Can you go ahead and start telling us about Hawaii and that encounter?
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. That's in my volume 3. And what it was a very large craft that was seen by a bunch of people, and they looked up at the craft, and when the craft, the people that were standing in the craft realized that they were being seen, it almost immediately disappeared, and they got the impression, the people that were seeing this craft on the ground, they got the impression that the people in the craft were like tourists, like tourists from a different time. Now, I'm not so sure that that's true, but it's the idea of this sighting. If it is true, that means that maybe a lot of what we're seeing is actually from the future. But I'm not willing to go there yet. It still was very interesting to me that it was like ecotourism, basically kind of thing, that people would come and look at look at the Hawaii lands and see how wonderful it looks, because it probably doesn't look like that in the future, provided it even exists in the future.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I bet you've come across some amazing cases. And for me, I love the fireball cases. Those are some I started researching that a long, long time ago. Do you have lots of reports of blue orbs?
A couple. You see them written about every so often. No one's ever talked to me about seeing a blue orb. A white orb, a red orb, but the fireball ones, the ones that look like an orange ball of fire, I saw them myself. And that was the craziest thing I have ever seen in my life. And they were less than a mile away.
Wow, we're going to have to talk about that when we get back from break, because I would love to hear about that. That's incredible. And I want to, because you've got 1 minute to go, make sure you go to Amazon and get Tom's books. They are here. You've got volume 1 and then volume 2, which is the Central U.S. UFOs, and volume 3. I mean, all of these things are amazing, and it really does give you a good perspective on sightings in particular locations. And Tom, you've done such an excellent job. Congratulations. And I hope you get more recognition for all of this.
Well, thank you. I'm trying hard.
I know you are. I know, and it's frustrating. This is a very, very different field, as we know. And I was telling you on break, I think it's, for me, I want to get out to the mainstream, and sometimes messing around in ufology can be really unproductive. But there are many, many people who've had really important experiences, and they deserve good information, which is what I think we're both trying to promote, and I love that. So we are going to go to break. I'm Erica Lukes. You can stick around for Willie Miranda, who will be up after my show. I love KCOR. Tina's going to be rolling out a brand new website and everything tonight, so you can look forward to that. We all are. Make sure you go to UFOclassified.com. That website has been having some difficulties, imagine that, lately, that I've been trying to resolve. So some of the links are not clickable, but there is my rebuttal to the Popular Mechanics article, which is something which should give you all food for thought. We will be right back after the break.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Vegas, baby! Vegas' #1 source for talk and new music.
How cool is that?
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint, and the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
There is a world outside that which we live in, a realm where fact and fiction collide. The Paradigm Matrix.
The Paradigm Matrix.
Hosted by Willie Miranda. Every Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us, even now in this very moment.
The 1-hour show that will surely leave you hanging on the edge of the rabbit hole.
The Paradigm Matrix
explores a universe of topics from UFOs, cryptozoology, conspiracies, as well as all things paranormal.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. The Paradigm Matrix. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network, where fact and fiction collide.
Alien Deceptions, a suspenseful sci-fi romance thriller by Tina Marie, featuring the tantalizing Erica Jones and the mysterious Russell Hamilton. An out-of-this-world book of fiction based on years of document facts and files the government does not want you to know about. At least, not yet. Alien Deceptions by Tina Marie. Available now at Amazon.com or get a signed copy at TinaMarieEntertainment.com. Get your copy now.
1, 2, 3, 4! You are listening
to the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
I love the way it sounds.
Love the music. Oh, I listen to.
The future of radio is here and now.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the last segment of UFO Classified, and you know how I feel about this moment. I could talk and talk all night, but alas, the show is coming to an end. I want to just throw this out here. Now, due to something that I have seen, interestingly enough, at Skinwalker Ranch, during the Bigelow days, during the Bass days, they deployed a team of 4 to 8 people. And interestingly enough, there were only 2 people supposedly on the property at one time. Neither Bartell nor Marks or other people that were there ever knew or suspected that there was anybody else deployed. And in one of Jacques Vallée's journals, there is reference that he mentions to Bigelow that he needed, and he felt that there should be a security team or a team of people looking from the outside in and monitoring activity. So there's another really interesting question, and I'm sure that is going to lead down yet another road where we understand that what took place at Skinwalker Ranch had nothing to do with UFOs. Clearly, nobody's seeing a UFO. It was the manipulation, the huge psyops, and putting people in harm's way. So I look forward to keeping my pressure up. I've got more and more people coming forward every day that are supporting me, and these are not people in ufology, mind you. So that will be an unfolding story, and you are right here while it is happening. So there you have that. I am here now with my friend and fellow researcher Tom Conwell, who has authored several books, all available at Amazon, so you can find them. They are here, volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't think I've got 4.
No, it's not a volume 4. It's a Going Interstellar.
Okay, Going Interstellar. Okay. So you have to flowchart things for me. Which is very difficult because I'm telling you the Skinwalker stuff, my brain is just going a million miles a minute. So, but that's incredible. And so where are you going to be speaking next?
Let's see. I have a co-speaking engagement with with a paranormal group where I'm going to be talking about UFOs and how that interfaces potentially with the Bigfoot community. And I'm going to have several people in the Bigfoot community also giving speeches around what they've seen and why they think that there's a link between UFOs and Bigfoot. So that's going to be in the Albany, New York area.
Well, definitely, keep us posted, and I'll get that information out to people, and so they can come see you and chat with you.
Okay. And in, let's see, Cheryl Costa has she's putting on a conference that will be the 18th. Is it the 18th and 19th of September? I think it's the 18th and 19th of September. Just south of an area just south of Syracuse, New York, and she asked me to speak at that. So I'll probably be speaking on my latest book at that point. That's all I have that's scheduled to this date, and I have my name into a whole bunch of different conferences.
That's awesome. That's good. I look forward to, hopefully I can see you at one of the conferences, soon. I'm like to the point now where I was mentioning to you that I don't do a lot of conferences and I'm just too busy with other things. But I am going to be speaking in Houston, and I'm really looking forward to that. Both my husband and myself will be speaking there and talking a little bit more about some of the work that we've uncovered with regard to the Uinta Basin and Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. But have you, when you look back at some of these cases, can you think of cases where people were actually physically injured by the objects that they were reporting?
Let's see. Yeah. I don't ever remember hearing anything like that. A whole lot of people that were up close and may have had some reddening of the skin, but no actual injuries. But I did have an opportunity to do about 30 interviews with people who were abducted. And there was some injury involved there because there's some people that had some serious mental issues when that was over.
And so how do you, if people aren't, do you feel that some of these people are more empowered after they have a sighting, or do you feel they're frightened? What is the general consensus after looking over all of this data?
Ooh, interesting. Let's see. As far as the people go, you can tell when it's the first time that someone has seen something, that the way that they describe what they're seeing is one great big run-on sentence, almost with no periods. They're just so excited and so hyped up, they can't get it out. And they even talk the same way. If you happen to get an opportunity to talk to them, it's like 4 minutes without taking a breath. And as far as the abductions go, you have just the exact opposite reaction. People who, once you get them to start talking, they speak in halting terms, and they're afraid to come up with what they actually saw, and they talk all around it. Very unique.
Very interesting. And have you had, and this is kind of changing the subject a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you've experienced. How old were you when you first had an encounter?
68.
So that gives people hope.
Yeah, really. I was that age, and I had just gotten to the point where I was uploading my first book to Amazon at that point. And once I got to the point that I was saying, I'm talking about this now, all of a sudden stuff started happening to me. I've had 4 sightings, seen multiple ghosts, and was visited by a group of definitely not humans. So it's very, very interesting. Once I made that mental commitment that something else exists, it's like I opened myself up and they came running through the door.
It's so, tell me if you don't mind, and I know sometimes these things are personal, but when you started having some of the ghostly encounters, like what was that like?
The first ghostly encounter I have was it just looked like a person. I mean, just like a person. It wasn't a ghost. It was just like a person. The next encounter that I had, I was in a shaker facility. Do you know who the Shakers are?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was in a shaker facility, and we were doing an investigation. And I was with our team psychic, and I was standing up in that area, and we were in the attic of their meeting room, and we were talking. We had an encounter earlier that night where something described to the psychic they had that they may have been involved in a murder, and they did things that weren't approved by the Shakers, and that was pretty much all that was taken out of that seance. And that night later on, I was with the same psychic, and we were up in the attic, and we're just asking general questions. What is your name? You know, that kind of stuff. And what I noticed maybe about 10 feet from me was a basketball-sized glowing orb, I guess you'd call it. I don't know what else to call it. It was about the size of a basketball. And I said to the psychic I was with, Joe, are you seeing this? And he said, yes. I've never seen something like this before, but I have talked to people who have seen it. And we were standing there talking to this basketball, orange-looking thing, and we were asking questions based on the information we had gotten before. And when we were close up on the information that we heard about previously, then the thing would glow like orangish and become very bright. And when we weren't talking about that, it would sort of like dim down and become white. It was just the oddest thing I've ever seen in my life. It lasted 6 minutes, directly in front of me. 6 minutes of this glowing ball right in front of me. And it was just the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
All of these experiences, I mean, I've had some unusual experiences as well. And I have to ask you, selfishly, have you, when you were looking through all these reports, did you ever come across a report where somebody was talking about an object that looked like a cheap firework? That looked like some sort of like a bottle rocket?
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. I was in a place one night, and what I saw were these flickering lights. They were red and orange, and there's flickering lights down at the end of a hallway. and it wasn't from the outside because there were no doors open in that point. And I suppose a person could describe it as cheap fireworks, but it was different. It was different. Red and orange flickering lights, shimmering almost, but they only lasted about a minute.
Yeah, there's so many things. And Chris O'Brien mentions the cheap fireworks in the San Luis Valley and different things. And that's something that I've also seen as well, but you just don't find a lot of reports on that. So there's so many different types of things that need to be looked at. And we need to figure all of this out. And so, I mean, do you find, as you're going through all of these things and you make new discoveries, do you find that you're frustrated, elated? I mean, what are some of the emotions that you go through as you move through this discovery process?
Well, everything that I had seen, I found that right after I saw it, I was like really hyped up. I'm not the type to verbalize that kind of thing, and oh my goodness, I won't do that. But I remember with everything that I had seen, I got very antsy and wanted to walk it off. In other words, I got so excited, I couldn't stop walking. Back and forth, up and down stairs. It doesn't matter. I just couldn't stop walking. It's the only thing I could do to quiet myself down.
Wow.
Yeah. And by the way, I stuck a picture up on your chat room, which is one of the pictures that I showed you before that sort of indicates straight lines and sightings. This is 2 days before the quake, the day of the quake, and 2 days after. And you get an idea what I'm talking about with straight lines. It almost looks like it's a surveying pattern.
And that's interesting. I mean, could there be a connection, as we've talked about, like perhaps with the military and some of the military routes?
Is it possible? Well, sure. Anything's possible there. Could they be largely military? I suppose they could be. This was about 2008, this particular event, I think. And this was sort of before there was a peak in sightings, which was 11, 12, 13 timeframe. So I don't know how many military flights were flying around that point. But what people were seeing weren't airplanes.
And so, and you mentioned, and this is really interesting to me, that the sightings appeared to peak in 2011, 12, and 13. Mm-hmm. And so where were the specific areas where they peaked in this time frame?
I would say that if I'm going to put an area around it, Detroit, Toledo, Cleveland, and Buffalo, and Chicago, which is all around the Great Lakes. And then Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And the West Coast from Los Angeles up towards San Francisco. And then on the Oregon coast, up through Portland, and then it switches inland up over Seattle and Tacoma. Those were the areas I think that caught the brunt of the sightings. Los Angeles, I think, was the number one area at that point. But Phoenix took over that, I think, around 2017 or so.
Interesting. Well, this is all just absolutely fascinating, and I can't wait for you to release your new work, because the maps that I'm looking at are just so detailed, and you have so much information to put forward. So many questions that you raise with your work.
Yeah, it kept me up a lot, and I woke up a lot early in the morning with ideas racing through my head, and of course, I had to get out of bed and write them up. But it's been a long haul this last year. Let me tell you.
I know it takes it out of you. I'm sure. I can't imagine doing that kind of work. You've been just very incredible for me. And I have to tell you that I've got your map on my wall in my archive. And so I always, when I go in there and I'm, looking at all of these books, it's just right there. And I look at it and I'm always, it makes me think. And I really appreciate that. It's a gem.
Yeah. Now the one I sent you, was it 18 by 24?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad I did that. Okay. Yeah.
And,
that was that represented several years of my life, right? Yeah.
That's amazing. And actually, you know what? That's the way I like to work. I mean, get things on paper, and then you've got that visual. I love that. That's cool. It's and you signed it for me. That was very kind of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I try to remember to do that. I don't send too many of those out. I also don't sell a lot of them, and the reason I don't is because just by nature of what it is, it's a pretty expensive thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And so where is the next step that you want to take?
Well, up until the day before I started doing this latest thing, I was looking into writing about UFO technologies and what the technologies must be in order for them to be able to do what we see them doing. And then all of a sudden, like overnight, when I saw that one thing in that show in the summer, I just stopped doing that, and I just went 100% into UFOs and earthquakes. And afterward, let's see, what am I going to do next? That's a good question. I'll probably write a book up about what the anomalies are that I see on the big sighting map that I did, and there's about 100 of them. I'll probably write them up and put them together in a publication, and most likely try to incorporate some of the things that I just found out with the earthquake and UFO thing that I just did. So I'll probably try to incorporate both of them in there.
That is awesome. And so, I mean, how does your loved ones and your friends, how do they feel about your interest in this? Because obviously it's something that has kind of happened, as you've gotten, into your 60s.
70s. Everybody seems to be very supportive of me. There's nobody who comes up on me directly and try to convince me that I'm doing the wrong thing. It's probably because my presence on Facebook, I write very well, and sometimes I use some pretty big words, and I think that sort of scares people away.
Well, I'm jealous. Maybe you can teach me some big words. Half the time I'm typing on my little teeny phone, and it's like, oh my goodness, like I don't even know. But it's funny. But you do have a great presence on social media, and it's been fun for me to get to know you over the years, and I think that you're a great guy, and I'm excited to sit down at a conference, maybe grab some lunch, go hang out, and just talk about some of the things that you've learned learned or some of your feelings that you have about the subject. It's so intriguing, and obviously it has its hooks in us. Clearly.
Yeah, I'm full of ideas, and there's not enough time in the day to complete them. So I'm sure I'm going to take a lot of them to the grave with me. But this has been a very interesting time since I retired.
That is awesome. I love it, and I'm excited. Thank you so much, Tom Conwell, for being here. And I want to just give a shout out to Willie Miranda, who is up next, and has Cheryl Costa, who we've talked about earlier in the show, on tonight. I think the world of Cheryl and her work, and I know that all of us have some stories. We probably should do a little conference call, Tom, you, me, Cheryl, talk about some things and some of the struggles that we've had, with people and different agendas in this field, because it's not, sometimes this field can be, it's very interesting, but
yeah.
Anyway.
Cheryl and I are the best of friends, and we talk openly about what our ideas are and where we're going next. I trust her implicitly with everything.
Absolutely, I do too. She's a good person. So anyway, thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of my listeners from all over the world. I'm getting messages from you every day. I wish I could respond. I will do my best. There's so much work to be done. And as you know, I've broken ground on exposing the mistruths about Skinwalker Ranch. I will continue to do that because people's lives are in jeopardy and they deserve answers. I will catch you next week, and trust me, you won't want to miss next week's show. Stick around for Willie Miranda and have a safe weekend.
Listen very carefully. This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network.